Back with me is Joy Reid, and joining us, former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti. Renato, you look at the authorities giving this information finally to the states. Is there any good reason it should take 10 months?
I don't think so. I mean, certainly there can be reasons that you'd want to protect sources and methods, but a warning should have been given to these states that they needed to take action to protect themselves and the citizens of their state in the future. I mean, now they are up in a race against time. We have elections here in Illinois. We have an election coming up in March, a primary election. And voters in this state want to know, is their vote going to count? Is their vote going to be tampered with in some way? And I'm sure it's the same in all the rest of the states across this country. And really, now it's going to be up to state and local governments to step up and make sure that this matter is investigated and that their systems are protected so they can assure their citizens that this won't happen again.
You know, Joy, it's one of these things, we're sitting here, this is real.
Yeah.
This is 10 months later. This is not, wait, I think I heard about that. Didn't I see the headline? This is now, Friday night, 10 months later, and the feds say to the states individually, hey, I know you might have heard of it, 21 of you, 21, but instead of just guessing and wondering or checking it, we're actually going to help you out now. I'm just going to read from this so people understand what's out there. The Department of Homeland Security saying that earlier this year it had evidence of Russian activity in 21 states, but they failed to inform individual states whether they were among those targeted. State election officials finally contacted by federal authorities on Friday, today.
Yeah, and it's, one might deem it suspicious that the administration that benefited from Russian intervention in the election, that wasted no time deciding that they needed to launch a 50-state scheme to collect the private data of voters so that they could stop fictional voter fraud because they wanted to prove that somehow Donald Trump really did win the popular vote and there were millions of fraudulent voters. They've wasted no time impaneling a commission led by the vice president with known vote suppression experts like Chris Kobach on it. That didn't take any time at all. But DHS, which used to be headed by the now Chief of Staff, General Kelly, they couldn't get around to letting these states know until this late in the game when there's another election coming up at which control of the House and Senate, meaning control of the committees that can issue subpoenas that could pose a threat to this administration on the Russia investigation, took them this long to get around to it so states could prepare. One might deem that odd and suspicious if you had a conspiratorial mindset.
Well, or if, as you say, I like you connect the dots, you're telling me, oh yeah, John Kelly, that guy who's supposed to be everyone's savior and elicit the order. And I've reported on John Kelly. I respect his career.
Sure.
But if we're looking at this policy, I haven't heard a good defense from Kelly or anyone around him why this would take 10 months or why it's a Friday night news dump. We know how that works.
Yeah, the urgency around things like banning Muslim travelers, immediately. That has to get done right away. They've got all these deadlines. It's super urgent that they stop people of the Muslim faith coming in the country. They've got interesting priorities. And again, they are the people who benefited from Russian intervention the last time. So they might have, even just for the optics of it, wanted to be a little more proactive.
Right. Well, there is an old question, cui bono, who benefits? We don't just do Jamaican sayings. We do Italian sayings.
I was just going to say, I thought you were going to come with another J.A. saying. I was getting ready for it, Mom. I'm ready.
Renato, we can laugh on Fridays even when we have serious news, at least when Joy's here. And I'm going to ask you the question, actually, in a second about who you want to interview. But before I get to that, I want to play for you something very interesting from a former national security official, Renato, about the other big news, which is this focus on Paul Manafort. And this may be bad for him without being as bad for Trump, depending on your theory of the case. Take a listen here to Jeremy Bash.
It's possible that Russia actually sent and dispatched Paul Manafort to the Trump campaign, or at least that once Paul Manafort attached himself to the Trump campaign, the Russians said, okay, our agent is now on the inside.
Are you saying it's possible that they're going to want to find out if Manafort was a Russian plant? Is that one of the questions the investigation is going to try to answer?
Absolutely.
Renato?
Wow. Well, that is really something. What I would say is that it would definitely be a primary purpose of the counterintelligence aspect of the investigation. On the criminal side of it, which I know a lot of people are focused on, and certainly as a former federal prosecutor I am, what I would say is that would be explosive evidence that probably would actually not be admitted into a trial unless it was very, very highly relevant, because you could imagine it so prejudicing a jury that they would not be focused on the issues that matter for the particular crimes that are charged. I mean, to me, one thing that we found out this week from the New York Times is that Manafort is somebody that Mueller intends to charge, and he has told Manafort that.
He's a target, according to that reporting, yeah.
Exactly right. And one thing we also saw this week, Ari, is that both Ty Cobb, who's the president's lawyer, and Vice President Pence distanced themselves from Paul Manafort. And I thought that was very interesting because what we saw was, for the first time, that the allegations had gotten so explosive, and I think this was right after the reporting about him offering special access to a Russian billionaire, that now he's not somebody that you want to keep in the fold. So, you know, if I represented Manafort, I would be telling my client, I don't know if you're going to get a pardon. You may be a fall guy here, and you need to be thinking about how you could help Mueller.
Right, and that isolation strategy is clear.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.